just wanted to give you a little bit of history. If, you know, a lot of times, like the Urban League, for example, this pen that I have, this 100 pen, signifies our centennial year. So last year was pretty much our centennial year, right? So with our centennial year, we've been around for 100 years, but for the most part in Philadelphia, I've just noticed that a lot of people either need to be reinvented to the Urban League or just, you know, kind of refreshed a little bit of what the Urban League offers. But for the most part, so just to give a little history, the Urban League in 1917, the Urban League of Philadelphia was empowering African American community. And pretty much we're an affiliate of the National Urban League, which is in New York, the nation's oldest and largest community-based movement devoted to empowering African Americans and minorities to economic and social mainstreams. So with that being said, the programs that we offer with the Urban League, basically providing service towards everything that this affiliate with NEXT pretty much tries to offer to the community. So within education, within community service, within advocacy, and just protecting the rights of us as minorities as a whole. Okay? Everything that the Urban League does, we pretty much provide for free. Now, free meaning free to the participant or the client, to the community. We have pretty much a board and staffers, for the most part, donators, that pretty much donate funds to the Urban League to help run these programs through so the community can basically get empowered and sustainability as far as in their households. All right? So I say all this to say the Urban League is very detrimental to how we survive in our communities. So it's really important for us to kind of advocate and get the word out there and pretty much get out there to be hands-on with the problems that we currently have in our communities. With that said, today, for the most part, we want to bring in all of those missions and everything that we pretty much have. The speaker that we have today, Mr. Ken Johnson, is actually taking his time today, our keynote speaker, because the topic that we're going over is basically how to land a dream job, right? So when you're talking about how to land a dream job, you're pretty much going over, we all have worked before, at some capacity, right? We run into a lot of adversity, between a lot of adversities, and pretty much run into what is that next step? What is that next step towards what you want to gain, what you want to, you know, what do you want to obtain in your life, okay? The workshop is a unique opportunity to be motivated career seekers who wish to secure a dream job. For those who are committed to putting their best foot forward for the upcoming hiring season, this session is for you, basically to focus on the crucial career elements that will give your career search that needed boost and provide a definitive edge over the competition. So Ken is actually going to talk more a little bit about, you know, the program and what we're going to talk about today. But I just want to give you his history, because the history between Ken and I, Ken has been a consultant for the Urban League for numerous years, actually prior to me even being here, right?
6 or 7.
Yeah, about 6 or 7 for the most part. He's worked with our career service department. We have a program called Connect to Work, which is our customer service program that he has facilitated as well as placed to help individuals get placed in the program. And the top companies that he's actually worked with have employed, I want to say at least 75%.
80
to 8, yeah. I want to say 75% of participants coming through the program. So I will say this guy knows what he's talking about, right? I'm honestly, I've been with the Urban League for a little bit over a year. My background, I came from Job Corps. I worked at Job Corps for almost 10 years, and I've been in career development for almost 12 years now. Ken has actually become one of my mentors in this whole process. All right, so I'm going to just read you a little bit about his bio. Kenneth L. Johnson is a distinguished diversity recruiter and executive search professional with 20 years of experience delivering talent acquisition solutions. In 2017, Ken was named the prestigious Forbes Coaches Council. In 2016, Mr. Johnson was recognized by Black Enterprise Magazine as a B Modern Man, BE, Black Enterprise. Only 100 people received that honor globally. At East Coast Executives, which is his company, he drives business results from clients through creative sourcing strategies and global recruiting programs as founder and president. Kenneth L. Johnson is currently recognized as the #1 ranked diversity recruiter by Google search engines. Previously, Kenneth designed recruiting and sourcing strategies while consulting with companies including Sperian, Snelling, Apple One, of course the Urban League of Philadelphia, Tiffany and Company, which I'm super proud of. He's like, Tiffany's literally, this is the guy right here, right? New York Life, Disney, which we actually got an interview for somebody. One of our participants actually got an interview at Disney in Florida. They shipped him down there and everything to do an interview because of Kenneth from Philadelphia. Pepsi, UPS, Wistar Institute, to find the right talent. His dedication to innovative talent acquisitions strategies and quality candidates makes him a highly sought-after strategic diversity partner in consulting. Kenneth currently serves as a staffing consulting specialist for the Urban League of Philadelphia and is a Forbes contributor. He has served on several panels and have featured in Black Enterprise Inc., South Magazine, New York Daily News, Monster.com, Fast Company Magazine, Philly.com, and the Philadelphia Business Journal. Kenneth is the host and executive producer of Career Seeker Show, which is actually Wednesday on WPPM 106.5 in Philadelphia as well. And I also, too, I think I want to add, too, Ken actually, for the National Urban League, does a lot of different webinars and consults for the National Urban League as well. So, with all that to say, I definitely want to introduce you to Mr. Business right here. Ken Johnson.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. He told me the best news ever today when he came in. There was something I needed from him, and he's going to deliver. So, Tom is good looking. No, but Jay, I don't want this to click off. I apologize I hope you guys can see that, right? But so all of that stuff. I was out here in Philly, man. This was months ago, and I walked into this room, and this young lady came up to me and she said, "Are you the get a job man?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, yeah, that works for me, right?" So I just thought it was an interesting thing because that's not necessarily what I do. That's what I've always wanted to do. So this whole dream job scenario came about because my dream job is actually helping people that look a lot like you guys and me, helping us to get job opportunities. Not your everyday job opportunities, the kind of hidden job market opportunities, right? So for me, it's always just been about helping people get jobs. That's all it's about for me. But the only way for me to kind of do what I like to do, I live in Manhattan, I keep a place in Philly, stuff like that. I can't necessarily work for people as much as I can work for the companies. Like, the companies' budgets tend to be bigger than individuals' budgets. So I help companies identify talent, in particular diverse talent, to their talent pipelines, and that's kind of how I was able to get into relationships with people like Tiffany and Company and the Urban League. Really coming here was basically me just kind of seeing a void and basically saying, hold on, you know what, let me speak to them about, my resources and seeing if I can provide some assistance. What had happened, job search changed so much, like maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, and a lot of people weren't aware of how dramatically it had changed because they were in jobs doing what they need to do. So I have a question. Is anybody here actually in their dream job right now? Is there anybody that considers the job they're working now their dream job? Okay, cool. That's perfect. So for me, again, I work my dream job. It's all about how many people can I help get jobs. So I host a radio show, right? And it's the Career Seeker Show. All we do is talk about career and job-related information with a focus on diversity, right? I get to work with the National Urban League, the New York Urban League, the Philly Urban League, like work intimately, doing workshops for them, all designed to help people identify job opportunities, right? And then I get to work my business, which is all about helping people or helping companies identify talent. And then the Forbes platform, I don't know, what more can I say? They let me write as a contributor, and they let me do a coaching Q&A every Thursday designed to answer questions related to career and job search. So this is kind of my dream job. I'm actually doing it. I didn't even realize that up until today. I was sitting here today. Jermaine will tell you, I walked in the door and I was just disappointed. Like 3 deals folded today for me. Worst day ever, right? I think was I mentioning that to you? Yeah, I'm telling everybody that wants to hear it. Well, people that don't even want to hear it. Look, 3 deals folded today. I was upset. But I actually made a phone call and the person said, yeah, but you're in Philly speaking to people about getting their dream job, so that's what you signed up for. That's what you wanted to do. So kind of here's what happened. I was like you guys. I assume since you're here, you do have some interest in identifying the dream job, and I think I have a 5-step process that'll help you go in that direction. There are 3 things I would like you to leave with today, and 1 is a plan. 2 would be the tools necessary to follow through on that plan. And the 3rd one would be simple. It's really simple, and this is going to sound kind of conceited, but it's access to me. When you come to events like this, you come to get access to people, and not for nothing, I'm a recruiter and I'm really good at it, and I'm kind of networked in with a lot of people, so sometimes it's just a matter of looking out and saying, hey, you know what? I met you at this function that Next Philadelphia had, and I have an opportunity that I'm looking at, just wondering if you know anybody. Because that's how people move and operate. You know, we always find ourselves just applying to jobs and then kind of sitting back and waiting it. So we're going to completely disrupt that to the best of our ability, all right? So let me kind of explain a little bit about myself. So this has always been the plan. Ever since when I was in college, I wanted to help people get jobs. Like that's what I wanted to do. I got a job in temporary staffing, and it was a good opportunity. And I went back to school, and I was telling everybody, hey, I just landed this job. You might want to holler at them because it's a good opportunity. I'm making this amount. We were all students, right? So the next thing you know, several people from the campus were working out there. So I helped a lot of people find jobs. So I started thinking, well, you know what? Maybe I want to own a staffing firm. Maybe that's what I want to do. I want to own a temporary staffing firm. So I set out on a journey to do that, but nobody would hire me. I could not get a job working for a staffing firm, but what I could get jobs doing, people kept hiring me to work with youth that were adjudicated delinquent. They wanted me to be a counselor, right? All right, I needed money. You know how that goes. I took the jobs. So eventually, I took a job, and it led me out here to Jersey. I moved to Philly, took a job in Jersey. I was the assistant director of a counseling program, right? So I was assistant director, and everything was going great. Maybe a year or 2 passed, and the director decided she was going to resign. She thought that the staff was responding a little better to me. So she's like, look, I'm going to resign, and we'll make you the executive director. All right, sounds like a pretty decent idea, but here was the thing. That's not what I wanted to do, right? I wanted to help people get jobs. So being the executive director, I'm like, if I lock in now, there's no turning back, right? At least I didn't believe there was any turning back. So I decided to set out on this little journey, right? And basically the journey looked like this. Is everybody here lives in Philly? So at that time, no? Okay, but you're familiar with Philly though. All right, so at that time, the staffing firms in Philly were all on Market and JFK. Those streets ring a bell to you? All right, we good? All right, so they were on Market and JFK pretty much from, say, 27th Street to 15th Street, right? All the staffing firms. So I made a list of the staffing firms. Now, mind you, I doubled down. I told the people at the company I was working for, I'm like, look, I'm not going to take the executive director's job. So you know what that meant. I was out. Like, if I wasn't going to take the job, they had to get rid of me. So I set out on this journey to get a job in staffing. So I'm walking down Market and JFK, and this was before 9/11, so you could actually walk into people's offices and give them a resume. So I'm walking in offices, and I got this resume, but I got this pitch, right? I got what they call an elevator pitch. So I'm giving my pitch, you know, hi, my name's Kenneth Johnson. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Pittsburgh. I'm interested in recruiting opportunities with your organization. Do you have any openings? It was really simple, right? So, but I was nervous, so I was kind of stumbling across it for like the first 10. So by the time I got to number 15, like people just kept telling me no. So I get to 15, and I meet this lady, and her name is Joyce Holly. Anybody related to her? She's from Philly, actually. All right. Joyce is really good people. Joyce didn't hire me, though. She was like, look, I have a small office. I really like your pitch. I respect the fact that you came in the door. People don't do that. She's like, I don't even have that opportunity, but if I did, I would really consider you, and maybe one day I will, right? But so I grabbed her business cards, of course, and I kept walking. Next office, I'm at like 18, 20, still, bunch of no's, right? So I get to where the clothespin building is, Center Square. And I go in there, and I walk in, I do my pitch, and this lady is coming from the back, because I did my pitch to the wrong person. That's one thing, always remember to do it to the right person. I did my pitch to the admin, who was a temp herself, and she was like, I'm not the person you need to speak to, but the person that I needed to speak to happened to be walking towards the front of the office and heard the pitch. And she was like, wow, that was a really good pitch. I would be the person you would need to speak to. Let me see your resume. So I showed her my resume. She liked it. It just so happened her VP was there that day, and they had an opportunity with what they call an on-site client. So they had an opportunity for someone to come and manage 250 temporary employees at this on-site client. And they thought that my background working with juvenile delinquents would work well for this environment, right? So 3 days later, I had started my first job in the temporary staffing world. No experience, but I just walked in the door and presented myself and let them know where kind of my skills were transferable and where I added value, right? Worked that job for a while, started meeting people in the industry, and found out about executive search, right? Anybody know what executive search is? Like a headhunter? Everybody's good with that? Okay. So I found a job in there was a gentleman, his name was Bernard Johnson, 215 South Broad Street, right down the street. He had a company called Urban Recruiters. Reached out, went to see Bernard, and it kind of changed my life, right? So I didn't know anything about executive search, but I go see Bernard, and I walk in his office, and he's drinking a glass of champagne watching BET, right? I swear to you. I'm like, okay, so this is your office, you're drinking champagne, you're watching BET. I'll take the job. I'm in. I don't care what we do. Let's go, right? He's like, you got to understand it's not that simple, young man, you know, so we're having a conversation. I'm telling him what I do. You know, I'm a recruiter. He's an executive search recruiter, so he was recruiting at a much higher level than I. But he was willing to teach me the game. But he told me, I can teach you this, but it's 100% commission. So, you know, I'm just like everybody else. I got bills and stuff going on, and it's hard to take a commission job. So I took it anyway because that's kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people get jobs at a higher level. And Bernard had what he didn't call it a diversity recruiting firm at the time, but that's what it was, right? So I take the job with Bernard, 90 days. I don't make a penny. Zeroed out, right? 90 days. I swear to you, day 92, I was sitting on like $64,000 because 3 of the deals I was working on went through. Not like today, by the way. So it helped me kind of get breathing and moving in that industry, and then I just decided, you know what? This is where I need to be to help people get opportunities. So that kind of led me to my dream job, right? Just, I didn't know what it was then. So I do this presentation not expecting you to know what your dream job is. If you do, that's great, but it can change. So don't get locked in, it can change, right? So it led me to my dream job. So as Jermaine had mentioned, host a radio show, get to work with some great clients, get to do some exceptional things, but it all came from me just wanting to disrupt the industry, do a disruptive job search, right? So what I mean by disruptive, there's a young lady, her name is JT O'Donnell, and she has a site called Work It Daily. And she's outstanding. She actually was the first person I heard speak about a disruptive cover letter, though, right? She spoke about a disruptive cover letter, and we'll talk about that. I'll speak about a disruptive job search. Sometimes you just got to change the way everybody's doing things. You can't sit back and apply to jobs online and expect for people to get in contact with you. You got to be extremely disruptive. And the people that are best at that are the people that are getting the opportunities. Not the opportunities that you're necessarily seeing online, but they're actually walking in, creating opportunities that fit them, creating an opportunity. I didn't, even when I walked in the door to do consulting with the Urban League of Philadelphia, I don't know if that particular opportunity looked like it looked when I left. Because I was able to come in and kind of say, all right, these are some skills I have that may be of value to you. How can we package it for the best opportunity? So that's the stuff, those are the things that lead you to your dream job. So we speak about a disruptive job search, right? All right, go ahead. I'm gonna start speeding now. So to disrupt something, right? You're just interrupting something, an event, an activity. You're just doing things a little differently, right? That's what disrupting something is all about. You're disrupting the process. So the key to disrupting the process is to kind of know what it is that you want to do, right? There's no way you can get anywhere if you don't know where it is that you're going. So what I'm encouraging you guys to do is look at yourself as a business of one. You're the CEO of your own business. I don't care who you work for right now. I don't care what you're doing. We're in a place right now where jobs are changing, and they're changing rapidly. And all of us are going to be in situations where we're kind of the CEO of our own personal business. Whether you believe it or not, I was speaking to this gentleman, I can't remember your name, from New Orleans, but I was so happy when you said that you do your consulting practice as well, because I think that's how the future of work is going to operate. Even if you have a steady job, you're going to have some other things on the outside of that that you do to kind of advance yourself and advance your brand, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. All right? So, click on the middle of that for me. Thank you so much. So, it's brand or be branded, right? Create your brand or have someone create it for you. I think that's where we struggle sometimes. We have these skill sets. Anybody work a job where they're like, man, I could do so much more here? Yeah. But people put you kind of in a box, right? So it's a matter of branding, brand or be branded, right? So I'm going to ask, is there anybody here that's familiar with the term branding? Right? Everybody? All businesses are doing it, but I want you to take that on as an individual. Like, what's your brand going to say about you? And so what we're going to do, we're going to go over some tools that you can use to kind of position your brand, or at least create your brand, right, in the industry. So anybody have a blog? Is there anybody that's a blogger? We got any bloggers here? Or anybody that's creating content on any platform whatsoever? Okay, great. Is the content in relationship to what it is that you want to ultimately do?
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of? Okay, all right. I'm going to encourage you to make that the line. Like, no kind of, sort of, like definitely.
Gotcha.
Right? So it's all about what type of content you're going to put out there, written or visual. Now, I understand that people are very hesitant to put themselves out there, especially when you're working, right? It's difficult. But trust me, you can't be afraid of that. You have to increase your value, and you have to, if you're not out there with content, when you're sitting in front of people trying to get your dream job, the first thing we do as recruiters, we Google you. So first thing, as soon as I hear your name, I do a Google search. So if I don't see anything, I'm probably just as turned away as if I saw something, almost as if I saw something negative, because then I think you're hiding something if you're not out there. So when you're looking for your dream job, it's all about making yourself the expert in that particular field, right? You want to be an SME, a subject matter expert. And the way to do that is to get content out there that speaks to who you are as a professional. Does that make sense? No? Yes? All right. All right, so when you're producing your content, it's about your values, right? So what are your values, and how do you want to get them across? A lot of people, again, if you're out searching for a dream job, you want to know exactly what it is that you want to do, but then what part of that, who do you want to be within that framework? As a recruiter, right? So I'm a diversity recruiter. I'll tell you guys a quick story. I have a client, and it's a humongous client. It's a big name client, and I value them dearly. But here's the deal. I had to let them go, because as I was recruiting people, I'm recruiting you. So if I recruit Marta, right, I'm recruiting her, and I'm saying, look, I need you to get your resume to me. I'm gonna get it to my client, and we'll see if they're interested in you for this particular opportunity. So I get her to act with a sense of urgency. 24 hours, 48 hours, she got the resume to me, right? Well, this particular client, they'll hold on to her resume for 2 months before they even interview her. So now you're messing with my value system, because all it takes is for Marty to get on LinkedIn and say, I was working with the East Coast executives, I sent him a resume, he told me to rush it to him. I ain't heard from anybody in 60 days. I don't need people, that's not the value that I want to offer to my customers. And granted, my customers are typically the companies, but a reputation is your reputation, right? So as you're speaking out here on social media, and just be careful on what values you're conveying, right? So what's your current audience, and what type of audience would you like to attract? For me as a recruiter, my audience, of course, are professionals that are in diversity and inclusion, or human resources, right? Like if you're looking through my LinkedIn profile, there's a ton of people that are global director of diversity, manager of diversity and inclusion. When I write for Forbes, to cater to that population, because that's who I'm trying to attract, I think my last 4 articles were about diversity. I interviewed the president of the National Black MBA Association, Jesse Tyson. I interviewed Thomas Savino, president of Prospanica, which used to be the National Association of Hispanic MBAs, right? Then I wrote an article called Diversity in Real Dollars and Cents. But you get the theme, right? It's just about diversity. So recently I got a call from a Silicon Valley heavyweight who reached out to me, and she's interested in doing some business together. And I said, how'd you find out about me? And she said, I read everything on diversity. So each morning she wakes up and puts diversity into the search box on Google, and then hits the news feed. And everything that comes up, she pretty much reads. So that's how she found me. But that's who I was speaking to. I was speaking to people like her, right? So always remember who your audience is in relationship to your business. What do you want to achieve out of it, right? You got to have a final outcome that you're looking for. What do you want to achieve out of the information and the content that you're putting out there? People waste so much time putting stuff out there that they're not looking to get a return on. That's your human currency. That's your investment in yourself. So use that opportunity by having a plan on what it is that you want to get back. For me, it's business, right? Or at least relationships. Just so happened that that person that connected with me went over to another Silicon Valley company in January. So now hopefully I'll get to work with them both. But I formed a relationship with her. She saw the consistency in the value that I was providing. And she's like, look, I can work with you over here as well. So always try to put yourself in front of that, right? What is it that you're most knowledgeable about or passionate about? Is there anybody here that has a dream job? Like that really in their mind, they're like, that would probably be my dream job. Or even a dream company? No? No one? Yes, thank you. What would it be?
My dream, well, I'm in my dream industry.
Okay.
But my dream job would probably be the managing director or program director at a nonprofit.
Okay, all right, excellent. Excellent. Man, I would love to hear more about, and I think you have it up here, but you know what that nonprofit, who they serve, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I always get into this with people. I get people that say, I want to work in social work, or I want to work for a nonprofit. And I'm like, drill down. And they always say, well, what do you mean drill down? Well, who does that nonprofit serve? Oh, okay, they serve women. Well, tell me about these women. Well, they're women with children. Okay, so anything else? They're just every woman with a kid you want to serve? Oh, well, they're women with children that have housing issues because they've been victims of abuse. Now we can start drilling down and finding out who the companies are that you need to market your skills to, right? So that's the thing, like be as descriptive as possible on, what it is that you're knowledgeable and are passionate about. I can lock that in. Okay, great. All right, so then how do you best communicate your message and your target audiences, right? And we want to get out of this branding, but this is real important for the next slide. How do you market to these people, right? So there's a lot of different ways to do it. So Jay, we're going to go to the next slide. All right. These are the tools that are going to allow you to market yourself to anybody and everyone out here. This is a list of stuff that I've compiled that I've seen work across several industries, right? So, is there anybody here that's not on LinkedIn? Okay. I really want to encourage you to do that, like tonight. Make me your first connection. What's your name?
Shatara.
I swear I'm looking for you. Like, even if it's not tonight, like, give me a week. You know what? There's a young lady, her name is Janelle Martinez, and she writes for Black Enterprise, right? So she did an interview with me, wow, this was years ago, on search engine optimized resumes. And I was like, Janelle, I'm going to send you a connect on LinkedIn. And she's like, I'm not on LinkedIn. And I was like, what? And I begged her, so she went on. And now she's like one of the biggest LinkedIn advocates you'll find. She's very social media friendly. She's great at what she does. But yeah, please, leverage LinkedIn. Here's the deal. It's reported that 98% of all recruiters are on LinkedIn, right? So why wouldn't you hang out where the hiring influencers are hanging out? Like, if all the recruiters are there, trust me, I use this. This is the first thing I go to. With my firm, and this is, I'm not discriminating against anyone here, right? But with my firm, if you don't have a job, it's hard for me to place you. Because people pay me a premium for me to find talent for them. So if you're asking me to find an accountant, and there could be 20 accountants sitting over here that aren't working, but the companies I recruit for typically will be like, well, we could have found them. We want the accountant from our competitor. You know, somebody that's working. So why not be on LinkedIn? The people that are on LinkedIn are really actively recruiting for talent. And it's a great place to network. It's just not even all about that, but it's a great place to network professionally, set up informational interviews. People that are running nonprofits now, that you want to be part of your network now, because later, when you have yours, those will be people that you need to know and need to connect with, right? So LinkedIn profile, extremely important. There's a site called brandyourself.com, right? So speaking of branding. So brandyourself.com, really, I call it a scrub site. This site helps you if you have some stuff, maybe you were in college, you were kind of reckless with your social media presence. This site helps you clean up some of the negative things that are out there on your social media profiles or that are out there in cyberspace in relationship to you and who you are as a professional, right? It's a do-it-yourself product, but it controls what people see when they Google you. And it's really important for some people. Some people it's not that big of a thing. Maybe everything's cool, but you know, a lot of people jumped into social media at a very young age. I see people now that are professionals, and I'm like, what are you doing? I just saw a young lady's profile today, and it's interesting. I met her here, right? And I was trying to help her get a job. This was a couple years ago. So today I see her. Now she was out having fun at a club, but she's like on a stripper pole. So if I was really Googling, and all her social media feeds are actually under her name, her exact name. And I'm like, man, if I was a recruiter and I Googled her, I might have some hesitation. Nothing wrong with what she was doing. She was fully dressed. But the point is, I don't know. Just you start giving people doubts. And trust me, when I say that recruiters will go through your social media profiles and Google you, it's going to happen. I do it. My whole office, as soon as a client's name comes in, you see everybody look down and go to their computer because we want to know who they are. So trust me, it happens, right? So of course, your blog, we spoke about that. You know, if you're branding, if you're trying to set up a brand, if you have your own personal website, does anybody have their own personal website? If you have one, you know, if you have a blog attached, but if you're producing content that's indicative of who you are as a professional, it's a great tool. Everybody familiar with Glassdoor? So people use Glassdoor for a lot of different reasons. But if you're searching for your dream job, then you should have a list of dream companies, right? Or companies that can provide you with that opportunity. So Glassdoor is a great place to find out information about those companies. But more importantly, in today's world, Now Glassdoor is letting you apply. You can apply through Glassdoor to jobs. So 80% of the candidates that apply through Glassdoor and or LinkedIn, the resumes are being seen by recruiters, right? Versus even their own personal websites of the company. If you come through Glassdoor or LinkedIn, they're finding that it's a more professional candidate. So they're really paying close attention to people that are applying through those sites. So definitely look into that. Career Bliss, anybody familiar with Career Bliss? Show of hands, no one? No. All right. All right, so Career Bliss is a great site, and for a lot of different reasons. But you can search jobs in your area. There's job reviews there, salary data. All of that stuff is there on Career Bliss. But they also have a tool that allows them to match you to certain opportunities. And it offers information on salaries, companies, careers, tips, trends. It's a complete career portal. And a lot of people aren't there. A lot of people don't know about it. So you're finding jobs that aren't recycled over and over again on Career Bliss. Udemy, anybody use that tool? Yes. So I think it's about 4,200, maybe 4,500 courses now. Here's what's happening. You interview for a job, right? So maybe there's a skill set. Maybe you're looking at these job descriptions and you're seeing there's a skill set that you don't necessarily have. But you don't want to necessarily go back to school and pay that money to take a class there. Well, Udemy offers coursework from professors from all over the world. I just took a class from a professor from Stanford on job search, believe it or not. But I just like to stay relevant with everything that's going on. And he had some great information on it. But I've used this in our Connect to Work class. We have people that maybe they've been out of work for 5 years, sometimes even 10 years. And you're going to have to show stuff. But if you can show that you've taken it upon yourself to do some online coursework to refresh your skills, that just shows an initiative that a recruiter's definitely going to pay attention to. And this is a great place to do it. And you can take classes for like $10. You know, I've taken classes on this site for $10 that have been outstanding from professors from the University of Michigan, Stanford, you name it. So don't hesitate to look at that. People do look at it on resumes and give it in a favorable light. All right, biginterview.com. All of these are .coms except for the ones that are that have the little asterisks. But anybody, Big Interview? Anybody familiar? All right. So you got a big interview coming up. What these people will do, they'll actually interview you. You can do it. They can do it virtually. They'll do it over the phone, like to prepare you for phone screens. So everybody always says, wow, it would be great to have a mock interview. I get emails constantly with people asking me if I can mock interview them. I probably could, but there'd probably be a cost associated with that. So I might not be the best way to go. Big Interview, it's a subscriber site, so you do pay a little, but it might be worth it for someone that's looking to really refresh their interview skills. You can't always have your homies mock interview you. People like to do it, but interviews are changed. People are doing behavioral-based interviews. Maybe it's not about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. They're asking you questions and expecting a strategic answer using the STAR format and things of that nature. So Big Interview is a great tool to prepare you for your interviews. Phone Interview Pro, same concept. Big Interview, actually, they also have a lot of information on their articles and things of that nature regarding interviews. Phone Interview Pro is what it is. They will coach you on the art of phone interviewing. Everybody knows now that your first interview is probably going to be a phone screen. And sometimes people don't know how to handle phone screens or video screens. I had this person, it was great. I was working this job in Westchester, New York, right? It was with a consulting firm. So the job was, I don't know, the job might have been paying like $120, and I think I was billing like 30% on it, right? So it was a decent paycheck for me. And I had this great candidate, and they phone screened her, right? I'm like, oh, no, she'll blow the phone screen away. She's really prepared. She had a bird that kept making noise during the phone screen. And the recruiter just got frustrated. It was like, no, what, I can't. If you can't control the bird, I'm done. So he calls me and says, we're not going to go with her. And I'm like, what? And he's like, the bird. I'm like, what bird? He's like, I called her, this bird was made. So she cost me, well, she cost herself money. But man, like, really? I think if I would have sent her Phone Interview Pro, they probably would have spoken to her and explained to her. I didn't explain, if you have pets, anything, get them out. Or go somewhere where you can't hear them. Like, I should have explained everything, but Phone Interview Pro is a great tool for just brushing up on your phone interview skills. A lot of people, you know, your phone voice might not be right, or you just might be handling the interview well. I know for me, when I do an interview or a meeting, I like to stand up. I think my voice sounds better if I stand up. Well, they'll judge some of that stuff for you. Like, all right, you sound like you're more authoritative if you stand up. You know, like just listening to your voice. So it's a great resource, a great tool. Of course, you're going to have your success story. I wish I would have had Tiffany Sutherland with me today. Anybody know Tiffany Sutherland? She's my co-host on the Career Seekers show. But she is really great at working with people on developing their stories. Here's the deal. Whether you're in an interview or whether you're reaching out to someone on LinkedIn and presenting yourself and doing informational interviews, whatever it is, people like to hear a story, right? People remember stories much easier than they remember other information. So if you can tell a success story, everything, now all you hear with resumes is your resume has to be accomplishment based. You have to show that you succeeded, right, on your resume. They don't want duties and responsibilities as much anymore. So you have to have a success story, and sometimes you need coached on your story and how to tell it and what parts, so you don't drag, so it doesn't just drag on. You know, you might not want it to drag on, or there might be stuff in your story that maybe you don't want to share. So work on your success stories. It's really important. I'm not going to go, I'm looking at the time here, but Indeed everybody's familiar with, right? As just a tool to find. I don't suggest you apply on Indeed, but man, that's where you can find out what companies are out there. There's so many companies. There are new companies coming every day into the market. You can't keep up with it. But you can do a search on Indeed and find out just about any company that's out here. Simply Hire, same thing. Create your target list. If you have a dream job, you should have dream companies. The companies that provide you the opportunity to do that job, right? So, with that being said, you need to create a target list of companies. Keyword optimized resume. Everybody's familiar with the term, right? The reason for that being so important is that companies are using applicant tracking systems, so anytime you apply to a job online, it's going through an applicant tracking system, and the system is pulling out keywords and rating you against other candidates, right? Great. Everybody knows that. There's a tool called JobScan, JOBSCAN, right? Here's what this tool does. It's the greatest thing ever. I'm getting ready to call them tomorrow because I want to form a relationship with them. But you go to JobScan, right? So there'll be two fields. One field, you upload your resume in. The other field, you cut and paste the position description, right? And then it rates your resume as to how it matches to the position description. And say your resume comes up like a 36% match. It will give suggestions on how you can get up to an 80% match, because it proves that the resumes that match the job description up to 80% are the ones that move forward in the process and get seen by recruiters. So instead of you trying to figure that out, there's a tool out there that allows you to figure that out. It's JobScan, JOBSCAN. But again, your resume, the position description, it'll rate it and give it a metric reading, 36%, 45%. But it works with you to get your resume up to an 80% match. So unbelievable tool if you're applying to jobs online, which typically you're going to have to do sooner or later. QR codes, right? Everybody know what a QR code is? Everybody's good? Anybody ever seen one on a resume? You want to blow a recruiter's mind? Put a QR code on your resume, right? Just set it up. Now have that QR code go to your personal website or any articles that you've wrote or things of that nature. So, and you can let them know on the resume, QR code goes to additional information about diversity, right? Whatever it is. Trust me, every time I send a resume with a QR code, the recruiters are like, either they're like, what's this? Or they're like, oh, are you serious? This candidate is that technical? because everybody's looking for people that are technology friendly, and you don't see it. So if I had a stack of resumes, and one of them has a QR code on them, guess what? I'm going to read the rest of that resume. And I'll probably pull out my phone or whatever I need to do and look at the code, see where it takes me, right? It's a tool that people don't use that'll separate you from the competition, because that's what this is all about. Especially if you're looking for your dream job, right? You want to separate yourself from everybody else. So, I can't speak enough about the QR codes. I probably could go on all day. The first time it happened to me, I was blown away. And I was like, oh, you know what? You're the candidate I need to send. That candidate actually right now works for one of my clients in San Francisco. Of course it would be somebody from San Francisco, because that's a tech space out there. But she had a QR code on her resume, and she worked in luxury retail. So it wasn't even like she was in a technical job. She worked luxury retail, but she had a QR code, and it went back to her designs at, like, she was what's the term I'm looking for? The person that sets up the winter clothing and things of that nature, whatever. Like, so it just went back to her store designs at the actual store, and it showed how she set everything up. But yeah, she had a website with all of those pictures there, and the QR code took you there, and they hired her. They didn't even try to negotiate salary. Gave her exactly what she was looking for, because she was ahead of the game. Disruptive cover letter. We spoke about that. I'm going to send everybody that's here an email, and it'll have basically information from this presentation on it, but also there'll be a link to a disruptive cover letter. And I'll try to explain it very quickly, but everybody, I'm seeing this a lot now, probably more than I've ever seen. Companies are asking people to submit cover letters. And I'm not a cover letter reader, but I do understand the importance of them. So the disruptive cover letter is going to be a little different than your standard cover letter, because it's going to tie you directly to the organization, right? So we did one here one day. I did one with a candidate here at UL. And she was a student at Temple University, and she was going to the military. Her whole family, they were ex-military, like military people. So her whole family. So her dream job was to be like a lieutenant in the Army or whatever, and I could have this wrong. But anyway, that was her dream job. So she leaves Temple, goes to the military. They find out she has acute asthma, right? Gets sent home at basic training. Can't be in the military. You're asthma. You got really bad asthma. So she was distraught. Didn't know what to do. She comes in here, and she says, look, I think I want to work at CVS. I want to be a farm tech. And I said, why? And she said, well, you know, when I came home, I was distraught, didn't know what to do. I went to the CVS in my neighborhood, and they spoke to me about how to best control my asthma and how to, like, deal with it so I can live a normal life. And she said, I just thought they went above and beyond, so I think I want to work for CVS. So what we did, I had a contact at CVS. The Urban League has a relationship with CVS nationally. We sent the director of diversity a letter, and it read like this. It wasn't your regular cover letter, but it read, hi, my name is XYZ. I recently applied to the farm tech position at store location XYZ. Here's my CVS story. And she just told the story about wanting to be in the military. She just told her story. It wasn't your cover letter that says, I have great attention to detail and all of that stuff. She told a story, a real life story about why she's right for CVS. Just so happened that the guy we sent it to was a veteran, called here probably within the next 40 minutes after receiving it, and then called the people in Philly at CVS and asked them to get in touch with me as well. And she got a job offer like that quick, but she tied herself onto the story. So a disruptive cover letter, that's what it's all about. It's about making it personal, telling a story. So really important. Does anybody take advantage of informational interviews? Yeah? I was going to suggest that you do it all. Does everybody knows what an informational interview is? I'll speak on it. This is why LinkedIn's great too. So you're looking for a job, right? But I always speak about getting in front of the job. People hate when you call them and you say, look, I'm looking for a job, can you help me? Right? A much better call is, hi, my name's Jermaine. I saw you on LinkedIn, and I wanted to connect with you because it looks like you're doing some really great things. I would love to hear more about the work you're doing in XYZ because I have some interest in pursuing opportunities in that field eventually. Would you mind having a cup of coffee or something like that, right? But you're not asking them for anything. You're just basically complimenting them on what it is that they're doing, letting them know that you're interested in the industry, and then you get in front of them. LinkedIn's a great tool for that. I will say this. It's kind of hard because everybody's not going to want to meet with you, but they might be open to a phone call. I did that one day. I reached out to a lady. I saw an article that she wrote, and I reached out to her, and it just so happened that she was in Philly. I saw on her Twitter feed that she lived in Philly. So I said, look, I'll be in Philly on Tuesday. Would you mind having coffee? And she's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So we went and had coffee, and I was just telling her how much I enjoyed the article, and I just wanted to hear more about the work she does in diversity. She's a big woman's advocate. And she sat down and said, she had canceled the Tuesday. We ended up meeting on Thursday. And I said, I'm just curious, what made you cancel? And she said, I had an interview. I'm interviewing for the VP of Talent Acquisition job at XYZ company. It was a company I wanted to get into. And I'm like, really? And she's like, know what, you do career coaching. Any advice on how I should approach it? So, of course, I coached her on it. She got the job. They're one of my clients now. But it was just off of me just reaching out to her about an article that she wrote. But I expressed interest in what it is that she does and followed up accordingly. So use informational interviews. They're a great tool. And there's a ton of information about how you pitch yourself on that as well. Jibber Jobber. Anybody? Nobody? Jibber Jobber is a tool. All of this stuff you're doing, you can track it in Jibber Jobber because that's a lot of information. You're reaching out to people, you're interviewing, you're doing informational interviews. Where do you keep all of that information? Well, Jibber Jobber is a website that allows you to enter all of that information on their site for free and keep it. It tracks everything. Meetings, who you spoke to, appointment times, dates, everything. So you can use that as a tool to move your job search forward. All right? Your network is your net worth. I know you guys have heard it before. Here's the challenge. People ignore their professional and personal networks and focus so much on their social networks now, right? People are so locked into their Facebook friends or their people they're connected to on LinkedIn. The dream job piece only works if you're willing to get out there and turn your social networks into personal and professional networks. It's all about relationships, right? And it's all about doing things differently. So I just encourage you guys to use the resource, use your networks to kind of get you moving forward. All right, it's 10 after 20. You can go to the next one. All right, so the power of social media is when it's built on real activity, right? So real activity. I want to show you this next slide, but this is somebody that was so disruptive, and I only show this to give you guys ideas, right? But this is a guy that was in a job search, and he was extremely disruptive in the way he approached it. You can go to the next slide. All right, you know what? I was going to say we might want to go back. Go back, come back on. Let's go back. I want you guys to see this and read this. he purchased all their names through Google AdWords, and he just assumed that they would Google themselves. And when they Googled themselves, they got a message from him saying, Googling yourself is fun, so is hiring me. And had a link to his resume and bio. And when they clicked the link, it took them right to his resume. For $6, he got 4 interviews with ad agencies in New York City. The top ad agencies that he wanted to get in. That's disruptive job search. Find something that separates you from everybody else. It's not as hard as you think, because so many people out here are lazy in their job search. Trust me. It could be the smallest thing, but find a way to separate yourself. Reach out to people. When you see that little thing saying, please no phone calls after you, on the position description, all right, connect with them on LinkedIn then. Don't call them, just connect with them on LinkedIn. But find a way to separate yourself from everybody else, because everybody else is sitting back and saying, they said no phone calls, I better not reach out to them. They're not calling you anyway. So why not just step across that line a little? So, like this gentleman did, he found a way to separate himself from everybody else, and he got interviews with the people he wanted to meet with and work with. And now he has his dream job working for an ad agency, Y&R in New York. But that was what it was all about, finding a way to separate yourself from everybody else. So I really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so very much. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call. You can go through that slide and the next one, actually. You can just set it. But, yeah, any questions, anything?
So you mentioned not to go on Indeed, like not to apply through Indeed. Any specific reason why?
Sometimes if you have to, right? Mm-hmm. But if you see that job on Indeed, check Glassdoor and LinkedIn and see if you find it there. Even if it's on Indeed, I would go right through the company website. Here's what happens. Believe it or not, once you apply online, the companies kind of know where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. So if I see talent coming from a site like Glassdoor or LinkedIn, I just find it that, all right, so you've probably seen on Indeed or some of the other job boards, when you can just kind of randomly apply to jobs. They may give you links and say, this job might be something you're interested in, and people just hit the button and it's sent. Usually, if you're coming through Glassdoor or LinkedIn, it's a more direct interest in the opportunity. So, or even straight from the company website, but I don't think you're going to get much value off of applying on Indeed. There's not as much as you would get off of applying through some of the other sources. Now, here's the way to get around that, though. If you apply on Indeed and then call the hiring manager immediately and say, hey, you know what? I just applied. I'm really excited. I saw this opportunity. I've been waiting for it. I just applied. I just wanted to know what the status is of the current search. Are you still looking for somebody? Like, just find a way to connect, and then they're going to go find your stuff. Like, I get those calls occasionally, and automatically, what's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin, automatically, 2 Kevins in the building. My brother's name is Kevin. I was telling that Kevin that. Automatically, I would go search for you because I'm like, all right, this guy actually reached out to me. Let me find out who he is and see what it looks like. So, yeah, if you do apply through Indeed, just go the extra mile. All right? Any other questions?
I actually want to chime in on that as well. So, Kevin, Urban League actually does a lot of their hiring on Indeed as well. Well, posting, rather. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, as far as actually my job, I actually got my job through just researching through Indeed. A lot of times, we typically don't always look at the full job description. We just see kind of what we want to see, skim through, and then keep going. So for the most part, at the end of the job description was an email. I actually sent the email in. I still applied later, but I sent the email in. So that was a direct link to the actual job. And I actually got a phone interview 2 days later to the job I'm sitting in now.
We're recruiters. We're lazy. So I'd rather you stand out than me have to go find you. So when I got 50, 60 resumes sitting in front of me, man, if you can call me and you sound good on the phone, I'd rather just pull you from that stack instead of looking through and trying to find you. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Yeah. What is your opinion on, for those of us like really early in our careers, like I'm a grad student, like what is your opinion on getting a job that like is not your dream job but builds a skill for your dream job?
Oh, you have to. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should do that because sometimes you're not ready. But know what? That's a great place to be, because if you kind of have an idea of what that dream job is and the people that are in it now, you can just reach out to them. They were you. So you just reach out and say, look, I'm not in a position to secure that position now. Well, I'm not ready to secure that position now. However, I really would love to have a conversation with you about what your journey was to getting there. And you just start creating that network and finding out what other people did to get to where you want to go. And this is the perfect time to do it, because you're a student and everybody wants to help students. So yeah, I would be all over that, especially if you know what it is. And you may find out that might not be it, but the industry may be changing. And that's one of the things you always ask in an informational interview. What things do you see that are changing in the industry? What's it look like in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now to you? Like when people talk to me about that, well, automation and AI is going to be incredible in the world of hiring. So those are the conversations that if I was a young me, man, you know what? USA Today asked me today that same question. I didn't think of that. How crazy is that? I'm going to call them back. If I was a young me, I would just lock in on automation and AI and hiring. And especially, just finding ways to leverage that as a hiring tool. Any other questions? Yes.
You could probably have an entire other session on this, but do you have any tips or tools on how to define your dream job based on your passion, your interests, your current skill sets?
Yeah, everybody says there's all right, so here's what people always say. Of course, you've probably seen this. Passion plus interest equals your dream job. Well, I'm really passionate about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I love football. I like the Steelers. I like the Sixers too. And I have an interest in basketball, sports. For me, it's about finding what your purpose is out here. Like, is there something that you're like, man, I think this is what I was sent here to do? And I know that sounds kind of wishy-washy, but it drives me crazy when people say, well, I'm pursuing my passion. All right, whatever. But if you're pursuing your purpose, that goes nowhere if you believe that. So I'm big on, like, if you're finding that. And I don't think, it's just something you got to kind of sit down with yourself and think it through. I wish I had the answer for that. We would make a ton of money together.
Are there any tools, or do you have any advice for even Googling positions that you're interested in? For example, I have an interest in corporate philanthropy, but so many different companies call it so many different things, and sometimes it's really hard to sift through to try to figure out like what positions you're actually looking for.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think there's any way around it.
Okay.
You have to do the research, but I think the best way to find the information is through networking groups. I don't know if there's a National Association of Philanthropists or whatever. Just find people to kind of get in there and network with, because what you believe from the outside looking in is a good opportunity may not be, and sometimes people within that network can say, you might want to stay away from that. Go this direction. And I just think, that I would just work the network. I would focus in on that.
Do you do any work with people searching internally within organizations, or do you just really do work with?
So people that are working at an organization that are looking to make a move internally?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, they would never pay me for that. Yeah, that would be great if they would. That'd be the easiest one. Go across the hall. She'd be a great candidate for you. Cut the check. No, I haven't, but I think that's the best way to move, because you can, once you start forming internal advocates. So we do this presentation, and it's called being T-shaped, right? So I'm a big believer that, so if you're looking at a T and you have that vertical line, right? So that's the skill set that you're building everything on. Let's say you're an accountant or you're in marketing, but then you decide, man, I like what's going on over in IT. And so that's the horizontal line of the T. And you just start kind of building relationships over there to kind of merge the skills. But when you're inside, you have an advantage over everybody on the outside, as long as your reputation speaks for itself. But yeah, so I wish that would be great. Anybody? Anything else? I'm here. I'm on LinkedIn, by the way. It's Kenneth L. Johnson. East Coast executives, please feel free to reach out to me. I accept most connections, but let me know if you do reach out to me. Please let me know that you were here today, then I'll critique your LinkedIn profiles. But yeah, just let me know that you were here. I welcome the opportunity to connect. It's so important now that we just leverage networks and kind of band together for opportunities. I'm a big proponent of people kind of getting a dream job. I enjoy this. I could sit here all night and just do this and be cool with that. So, I wish the same for everyone. Any other questions, anything?